You are listening to the Wealth Formula Podcast with Buck Joffrey. Get ready to change your life.
Welcome, everybody. This is Buck Joffrey with the Wealth Formula Podcast coming to you from Montecito, California. And today, before we begin, just a reminder, and this is a particularly important reminder right now, there is a website called wealthformula.com that is associated with this podcast. And one of the things that you may wish to do is to sign up for our accredited investor club this next few months that represent the end of the year. There's going to be a flurry of activity in there for, of course, accredited investors. What is an accredited investor? Oh, you make $200,000 a year or $300,000 of filing jointly, or you have $1 million of net worth outside of your personal residence. That's all that is. It's not something you have to sign up for, apply for, whatever. But if that is you do qualify for signing up for Investor Club at Wealth Formula. So go to wealthformula.com and do that because, again, great opportunities coming through. Now, speaking of great opportunities coming through, the thing is, I am concerned that people are asleep at the wheel, okay? Here's the thing. It's easy to see when a market is frothy, when prices seem unstoppable and everyone is piling in. That's what happened, from 2000, I would say certainly from 2017, probably all the way to 2020, 21, 22, I should say, basically when interest rates started spiking, right? That's when you saw froth. It's hard to see that. It's hard to see when you're in a frothy market. But guess what? It's also very, very hard to see when you are in the bottom of the market. We're in the bottom of the market right now. That's hard to see because it is a somewhat of a demoralizing place if you've taken that ride down, especially. But it's an important thing to recognize because at the bottom, not at the top, guess what? That's where great opportunities for profit actually are. And right now we're at one of those moments, and the need to act is critical if you want to be successful in real estate over the next, few years. So as we enter the 2025 year, the real estate market is really on the cusp of a major shift. I mean, other asset classes like stocks, bonds, they're going crazy, right? There's froth everywhere, but real estate really remains an attractively priced asset class, particularly multifamily real estate is what I'm referring to, with enormous upside potential at the same time. I mean, it's really a rare point in the cycle where investors who act, decisively can position themselves for really potentially exceptional returns. Now, the biggest players know this, as you probably know. BlackRock, world's largest asset manager, has declared that the global real estate market appears to be emerging from its downturn in capital values. In fact, they declared the bottom, right? And guess what? The bottom is an ideal entry point for savvy investors. So what else is going on to create this ideal entry point? Well, valuations have bottomed out, creating opportunities for really outsized returns. There's strong demographic trends. They're bolstering long-term demand. And again, we've got limited housing options and scarcity value to multifamily properties. And at the same time, economic fundamentals remain resilient. What amplifies this moment even more is the prospect of declining interest rates. So the Federal Reserve, as you know, has already signaled cuts through 2025, and this creates a powerful tailwind for real estate investors. Historically, investing in real estate during descending rate environments has proven to be exceptionally lucrative. Just ask anybody who's been investing in real estate, like my dad, for example, for multiple decades, right? And it's simple as this: as rates decline, cap rates contract. And this environment typically leads to an increased demand for properties, and that drives up values and creates substantial wealth for early investors. Again, past cycles have shown that those who enter the market as rates begin to fall, like they are now, often experience the greatest appreciation in their investments over time. And you know what else? The election of a pro real estate president could also provide a significant boost to the real estate market that I don't think has necessarily been figured into the equation yet. Policies favorable to real estate investment and development could lead to tax incentives. Guess what? You could see a renewal of the Trump tax cuts that were very favorable to real estate. 100% bonus depreciation will create a stampede of investors coming back into the markets, creating liquidity, creating demand, and you want to be in a position where you already own properties at that point. What I'm getting at is that this right now is the start of a cycle that only comes around once every decade. And timing is everything, and the window to act is narrow. So those who move now will stand to benefit from what could be one of the most lucrative real estate cycles in recent memory. And if you hesitate, fine, hesitate, but know that this is an issue. Make sure that you understand what you're doing. And, what's the point of even listening to this podcast if you're not going to take action? Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to learn about when you should take action, what you should do. And I'm not telling you specifically what to invest in. What I'm saying is get exposure now to the markets, right? If you hesitate, you really run the risk of, being left out. Bottom line is just recognize where we are. This is the moment to take action, position yourself for what's ahead. Okay, so I've got that off my chest now. That's something I just really needed to get across because I feel like, I don't know, there just seems to be this sense right now of people just kind of waiting, almost like lulled into submission. And it's the same thing that happened, by the way, with Bitcoin. Everybody who knew Bitcoin was going to explode, everybody knew, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of us did. And we didn't really go full court press, a lot of us. I did a little bit, but not nearly as much as I should have. And guess what? It's going crazy right now. And I have not buying regret. So hopefully you won't have that from real estate. Okay. Now, anyway, the rest of this podcast is actually completely unrelated to real estate. And I just thought it was fun. It's a podcast about how to use your credit card to optimize miles so that you can travel on business class for free. Hope you enjoy it. We'll have that interview right after these messages. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, my guest on Wealth Formula Podcast is Spencer Howard. He's a founder of Straight to the Points. He's a leading expert in credit card and loyalty programs and travel rewards, helps thousands master points, the idea of points for luxury travel. With nearly a decade in travel writing, he's contributed to outlets like Upgraded Points, 1 Mile at a Time, and the Points Guy, and has served as editor-in-chief at 10X Travel. His award alert newsletters with over 21,000 subscribers provide insight tips on booking first class and business class flights as well. And he's a podcast guest and featured in Forbes, CNBC, with the ultimate mission of making business class accessible to everyone. So welcome, Spencer. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Buck. I appreciate it.
You bet. So this is not our typical show. Usually we're talking with economists and things like that, or talking about investing. But this is something that I think everybody could use some information on. When I saw this come across from your producer, my thought was, gosh, I really don't know anything about this. And so if I don't know anything about this, then probably my audience probably doesn't know anything about this. So, and of course, a lot of people deal with points and that kind of thing, but obviously it's a pretty nuanced, and probably people don't take this to the level that you think it can be taken. So why don't you start out with that? Where did you get into this? How did you get into this?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the simple way is travel's always been a passion of mine. I used to work in politics, and it didn't leave me with much time for that. But once I was kind of towards the end of my political days, I discovered points on a blog that I'll admit, I looked at it and kind of mocked it because I was used to reading like aviation journalists from the Wall Street Journal. And I was like, why do I care about a blog? But
right.
I was wrong, and it was a great resource for me, where it just kind of showed me that, I'm spending money day to day on a credit card that doesn't really give me anything. when I could be earning some points that could help put me on a flight to go overseas. And I'm 6'3", so sitting in the front of the plane is a top priority for me because I don't want my knees in the back of the seat in front of me on 15-hour flights. And that was really just kind of the trigger for me. And then I've spent the last, 8, almost 9 years just obsessing over how to travel on points.
All right. So give us sort of the high level here. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this, right? So, give us your, I guess, what's your sort of elevator pitch, and then we can kind of dive into that.
Sure. So I look at it like this. Like, if you don't care about travel, credit card points and miles are not for you. Just don't even bother with it. If your credit score is lower than 700, you struggle to pay off bills on time every time, and I mean every time. Like, it's just not, you're not in the position to do it, and that's fine. Like, focus on your finances and then come back later. But if you're in a good financial position, you've got a good credit score, you love traveling, there's really no reason not to be spending on a credit card that can help you do so. God forbid you're using a debit card and getting nothing out of it. To me, it's just like, why not take what you're doing anyway and flip it into travel? That's how I look at it. That's the very high level.
Okay, so next step. All right, I'm convinced. I'm interested. Do I just go out and get one of those American Airlines or United MasterCards, Visa? Is that what I do?
It's a great question. So I generally tell people to avoid co-branded credit cards to start. Co-branded meaning like a partnership with a hotel or an airline. Banks have their own programs that allow you to transfer points to a variety of airlines. And those are where that's where I focus my energy. And I think the vast majority of people should as well. When you give with the additional like options with airlines that you can transfer to, you kind of open up options. It keeps you flexible. And a big lesson in kind of award travel is that airlines will sell you any seat for cash. They're not going to give you any seat for points. So the more options you can give yourself, the easier it is to find a workable option.
Yeah. So meaning that when you look at individual, so what's the downside of those cards, the United and
Yeah, sure. So like, let's say you have a Chase issues the United card. You have United miles. You can book flights on United or any of their Star Alliance partners. That's great. However, if United or one of its partners, say you want to go to Europe, doesn't have award space, well, now you're just stuck with points that you can't use. However, if you have it's called Chase Ultimate Rewards Points, Chase's own program, you could also you could transfer those points to United, but you can also transfer them to Air France KLM and their Flying Blue program. So say Air France has a flight to Europe and that would work for you and they have award space, you can just transfer your points to Flying Blue and book that. So, or vice versa. Like same concept applies where it's like United has a seat that you can book with points. So you transfer them to United or maybe its partner Air Canada and you can book it. So it's just about giving yourself as many options as possible for any given trip you're taking.
Okay. So, when I think about what I try to do with my credit cards right now is I try to look for cashback stuff.
Sure.
So for example, when I have one on Amazon that I think it's like 5% cash back for everything on Amazon. So everything I get on Amazon, which is quite a bit, by the way, you get 5% back on. It's huge. And then I also have another card. It's like the City Double Cash or something like that. And again, 5% ultimately cash back. So am I getting that cash back versus the cost of the flight? How does that work? Meaning, like if you're getting flight credits, are you typically getting more than you would in terms of cash to buy those same tickets? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, if you're not into travel, cashback is definitely the way to go. Like keep your life simple. Don't try to play a game that you don't need to waste your time on.
Right.
But if you're interested, especially I think in what I'm focused on, which is business and first class flights on international routes, the cash tickets can be, $8,000, $9,000, $15,000. Some of them are $20,000. It's going to take a lot of cash back to get you there. However, each airline program has its own award rates. Some have great rates, some have terrible rates. It's all about it's an arbitrage game, like finding the sweet spot. So a good example I always give is like if you want to you want to fly Swiss from, let's say, Chicago, or actually, let's say JFK, New York to Zurich, you could use 88,000 United miles or you could use 60,000 or 70,000 like Air Canada Aeroplan points. So same flight, but you're using fewer points. So I think that's a good way to think about it. When you're working with points instead of cashback, you can take advantage of a lot of bonus categories, not unlike the Amazon cashback that you get, which is 5%, which is great. Like, there's no denying that. I think it's more about when you're putting all of your spend toward one thing, like where you can use all of your spend towards a flight. If you're doing some cash back and some points, even if you're earning fewer points on a particular purchase, it's going to add up to something bigger than what you were going to get with the cash back. I realize it's not the easiest concept.
Just for clarification, because I think what I'm trying to get at is, are you getting a lot more in value per dollar spent on your credit card if you're getting points for travel than the cash back opportunities?
Yeah, I think so. And like, I mean, there depends on the flights you're booking. We often talk about cents per point, which is a bit in the weeds, but the idea is like, we often get more than 5 cents per dollar, or per point in our redemptions. So if I'm booking, something to Japan in first class that would have cost, $20,000, like, we look at it as like, okay, I'm spending 80,000 points for this. That's a great deal. I think sometimes people get too caught up in that, but at the same time, it's a good barometer of kind of what you're getting out of your points.
So so again, I hate to keep drilling down on this, but I feel like people want to know like details, right? The big picture is great, but we're like actually trying to figure out what this makes sense. So you're saying, so if you say there was a $10,000 or $10,000 flight from LA to Tokyo or something like that, okay? How much do you think? I know you can't give an average, but what would you expect in terms of spending on a credit card to get that level of points?
Yeah, that's where there's a wide number, or like range, just because some cards like the Amex Gold earns 4x on dining and groceries. If you spend a lot of money on dining and groceries, it could be really quick. If you don't, then you may be earning 2x or 3x on something else. It really just comes down to where you're spending. And then the other aspect of this that I think should get talked about more is a lot of people just get new credit cards for a sign-up bonus. Like, if you can get a sign-up bonus of 80,000 points for spending $4,000 in 3 months, that's your flight. That's your business class flight to Asia, to Europe, whatever. So it's kind of a game to me of like maximizing your bonus categories, supplementing with a new card here and there based on what you can get from that.
Mm-hmm. One thing that you mentioned, which I think is, particularly important, like when people have families, like for example, I have 3 daughters, young daughters that I'm always trying to travel with. I mean, we typically do pay for business class and it's very expensive. Yeah. You are a little bit of a second class citizen when you come in with points, right? I mean,
I don't think so.
No,
genuinely.
Meaning the like seating, like seats and stuff like that.
No, I think sometimes you're actually better off. It just depends on the airline you're flying. But like, as an example, if you book the cheapest business class ticket for cash on Qatar Airways, they will not let you select your seat without paying. They won't give you lounge access either. If you book with points, you get to at least have lounge access. You have to have elite status to choose.
What about choosing seats though? Like for families, that's a big point.
Yeah, sure. That's unless you have elite status with Qatar Airways, or one of their partners, you've got to pay for that one. But you at least get lounge access, which is an advantage over the cash ticket.
How about most of the time? Let's not talk about Qatar. Let's talk about some other stuff.
Most of the time with most airlines, you can choose your seats.
Really?
And you can get lounge access, and you get the priority boarding, the priority check-in.
Okay, so you don't necessarily. My thought was like, they were usually, when you got the access to this, it was because they were available. That's not always the case. You can get this and essentially block someone who is paying.
Nah, I wouldn't say you're blocking somebody who's paying. Airlines are pretty good about projecting out how many open seats they're going to have on a given flight.
Okay,
they're not gonna sacrifice making $8,000 on a ticket. And I will say there are a couple airlines that do just guarantee their own loyalty program members a couple seats on each flight because they want people to see the value in sticking with them and remaining loyal. So that is an aspect, but I would not look at it as like an adversarial world of like cash
Well,
versus points.
I get, yeah, no. I mean, I guess just trying to get into understanding, like if a family is like, yeah, but I like to make sure we're all together. That's one of my pet peeves, by the way. A lot of times we'll even literally buy business class and we'll choose our seats and we'll go there. And the next thing you know, they've changed the type of airplane or something. And then I've got 3 little girls who are supposed to be like sitting on their own. And I could just imagine the additional level of complexity if they didn't give you sort of, feeling like you paid for your seats. But you're saying that you don't get that kind of treatment. You get treated, like everybody.
Just like anybody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never had anybody. I've booked both cash and award tickets on business and first class, and I've never been treated better or worse on any of the tickets.
Okay. So what are the best credit cards for this kind of thing?
Sure. I think if you're trying to just keep it simple, the Capital One Venture or Venture X, if you want some like lounge access via some partnerships they have, I think those are really simple because you earn 2x on basically everything that you're going to have in your day-to-day. After that, it's kind of deciding how into it you want to get. I think there's kind of 3 buckets that people fall into where it's like they'll get 1 to 3 credit cards, match up bonus categories to maximize earnings, and then they never think about credit cards again. Great for business owners or anybody who just has a lot of spend. I think the most common in my kind of world of points and miles is that you get about 4 to 6 cards based on their bonus categories, and then you supplement here and there with a new card for a sign-up bonus. It just seems to be the sweet spot, kind of a medium of not too much effort, but it's still the ability to earn lots of points. If you want to be a maximalist, you can just get a new credit card every time you get a sign-up bonus. And that's like, you'll earn the most points by far, but you're going to have to like track things and put in some effort.
But end up with a lot of credit cards.
You do, yeah. I mean, I have like 25 at any given moment, and I've canceled many more. But it's, I know people think like, oh, your credit score is going to be a wreck if you get credit cards, but it's not the case. As long as you're taking care of your finances, you're fine. My credit score is over 800.
Right.
But yeah, I think the Venture X from Capital One are very good starting points if you're just like, I want to casually get into this. But it's just a matter of deciding how into it you want to get.
So some people, like for example, my businesses, we use the Amex Platinum. I'm sure there's probably some benefits to that I don't even know about. Like Amex is a big one, isn't it? Generally speaking.
Yeah, the Amex Business Platinum is a big one. I always look at the personal and the business platinum as kind of like benefits cards. They don't really have great bonus categories. The personal one earns 5x on flights, but that's only great if you're spending on flights. I would say the business gold and the personal gold cards actually have better bonus categories that help more people earn points faster. So I know a lot of people who have both the gold and the platinum, and they use one for benefits and one for their like day-to-day spend to earn the points. So
got it. So give me some examples of how you've used this, or
Sure.
others have used this that might sort of help us understand a little bit whether it's worth the effort.
Yeah, I would say some of my favorite experiences have been Singapore Airlines in their suites class. I've flown, back when they flew it to the U.S., I flew from Sydney to Singapore to Frankfurt, Germany to JFK with us like a week-long stopover in the Southeast Asia. I've booked ANA, All Nippon Airways, out of Japan in first class, round trip from
These
DC.
are just completely points.
All points. I mean, you pay the taxes and fees, but that's minimal relative to what you would have been paying.
So and all you did was use your cards to pay for daily stuff that you pay.
Daily stuff, business spend, personal spend. I mean, if you let me put it on a credit card, I will pay with a credit card. I even have a credit card that helps you or lets you earn points on rent. So it's
oh, is that right?
Yeah, I'll look to any opportunities that there are to earn points.
What else do you want people to know about this? I feel like my own knowledge of this is so superficial. I don't even know what to ask.
I think it's like any hobby that you're going to have. You kind of decide how much effort you want to put into it, how knowledgeable you want to be. The example I always use or the comparison is like, I have friends who play golf. I'm not personally a golfer, but I see them play. Some of them go to the driving range regularly. Some of them go to the putting green regularly. And then others just show up and drink beer and play with them. And like, unsurprisingly, one is much better than the other. And like, that's like anything, if you're going to put some effort into it, you're going to get more out of it. Same thing with points. If you learn a bit beyond the basics, you're going to get more out of it. But if you don't want to, that's fine. You can still get something out of it. It's just a matter of setting your expectations and getting what really matters to you. And I know some people don't care about luxury travel, but they still use points for economy. Great, whatever. Use your points, go travel.
Sure. So tell us about your publications and, what people can learn from it, and where they find it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so straight-to-the-points.co is my website where you can sign up for my email newsletter. I send out the opportunities to book business and first class award space on international routes. I send out the exact dates. I send out the different points programs you can use. I explain why you would want to use one program versus another, because a lot of times there's 9 ways to book the same flight. So I just break it down and make it easy for you to just say, oh, okay, I have these points. That means I should book this way. It's just trying to make this a faster process so that you don't have to think about it.
Is there a sort of on your website, is there just some basics where people can at least start to read about?
Yeah, I have a quick start guide, and I think it's a great idea to just kind of get a foundational understanding of this world. It makes everything much easier to navigate as you go forward.
Got it. Well, Spencer, is there anything else that you want to mention before we cut out here?
No, this is great. I really appreciate you having me.
Great. Well, Spencer, it was good talking to you, and hopefully some people will get something out of this and take some trips. If you do, folks, let me know if it worked out. So, welcome back to the show, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, just a reminder: join the Accredited Investor Club if you are interested. Lots of potential opportunities coming up there, including one more real estate opportunity. Again, you have to get onboarded into the Accredited Investor Group to do that. So go to wealthformula.com. Also, check out this miles thing. Tell me how it goes. I think I'm just too lazy to do this. I hate to say it, but I did notice that my Platinum American Express does have quite a few miles by virtue of using it for business. So maybe you'll get lucky that way too. But let me know how it goes if you're having some serious success with miles. That's it for me today on Wealth Formula Podcast. This is Buck Joffrey signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth Formula Podcast. Visit us on the web at wealthformula.com. The information contained in this podcast are opinions, not fact. As always, consult your own financial team before making any investment. See you next time.